Hello and welcome to the live session. So this live session is our third session this week. We have already completed legal aptitude. Then we had Ramcharan sir with economics, and today we are very privileged to have Ponnamma ma'am. So Ponnamma ma'am has done her MA and MPhil in English. She's been teaching from 1988, so she has a very rich experience from which we all can learn. Not just English, there are a lot many things we can learn during these classes. So this is basically our part B in paper 4. So tomorrow we have current affairs, but today it is part B. So welcome ma'am, welcome to the live session.
Thank you, Lok. Thank you.
Yes ma'am, before we start this live session, I had a couple of questions. If we could take that initially.
Yeah, please tell me.
In this part B and generally in the syllabus, it appears to be compact, but it's also quite elaborate. And it's something totally new to our students. They've never done this in +2 stage, and most of them are either in 12th standard or they're in first year degree or between that. And some of them have also completed their degree. So how do you think we should go ahead with this kind of a syllabus, ma'am?
Yeah, I know the time is short. The
Yeah.
syllabus is elaborate and compact. I would say compactly elaborate, vice versa. The thing here is, it's not a very new subject, though they have not studied per se this subject. It is not a very new subject, something like quantitative technique or law and stuff like that. So they have been communicating since the time they got the census right, using their mother tongue or English or whatever it is. So communication is not a problem. But the only hitch is the narration or the perspective was not in place. For the simple reason, people feel that if they know English, their communication is good, and if they do not have a good command over English, their communication is not good. That's not so. That's a wrong understanding people have. So today we'll put into perspective what communication is and what is the role a language plays. Once they understand that, this syllabus or completion of syllabus or understanding the concept will not be difficult for them at all. It is elaborate, but it could be understood very easily.
Okay, great. Ma'am, the other common question we get from students is that most of them say that English is very hard for us, primarily because it's not our mother tongue. It's not a mother tongue for any of us in
Yeah.
India,
No.
not just for our
Mm-mm.
students.
Mm.
So, how can we improve our vocabulary and generally, how can we improve our English?
Uh, I mean, it's actually very simple. What I would suggest is start thinking in English. Instead, what is okay after the class, I'll go home and sleep. Instead of telling that in your mother tongue, you just speak that in English. Start thinking in English. I always say, God also understand English. Pray in English, and start using words for yourself. Over a period of time, you start using it aloud. The word which you think, you start using it aloud. I was listening to Mr. Ramcharan's sessions on current news awareness. Yeah,
Yes.
I noticed that he explains it well, but it should not stop there. The student should go back home and read the whole article. When they read the whole article, they'll come across a lot of terms which are either technically new to them or generally new to them. So when they start reading those articles, it will match with his session, and also it will help in my session or your sessions. So it
Yeah.
is not an activity which has to be done from 8 to 9 or 9 to 10 or whatever, all 24 hours. You just start thinking and, in English and reading paper or books or whatever it is. It
So
wouldn't
I
be very
think
difficult.
sure, ma'am. So I think that's a very valid tip. So basically, ma'am is telling all of us to think in English. So it's step by step. We can't learn English overnight. You didn't learn your mother tongue also
Yeah.
overnight. It is because people around you were speaking, and over a lot of time, we learned it. So English is also just another language. So I would request all of you, please don't worry. And also, please realize, why do we have English in CACET? See, what used to be the problem is in CS executive or professional, we have all different law subjects. And for if you like it or not, the subjects are written in English. And students had a huge problem because their basic grammar, basic vocabulary was very poor. So that is why in CACET, not only we have paper one, English and grammar and communication, but paper four, Viva was, that is listening skills, then writing skills, and
Present.
auditory skills. So all
Mm.
of these are the speaking skills. So that is why we would request all of you to please concentrate. This is a class. Please have your notebook. So after I finish now, we'll be going to the classroom mode where you'll have a screen, and then ma'am's voice will be there, and then she'll be showing the PPT and also probably writing few things. And please make sure you have a notebook and pen. This is an interactive class. English can't be like a one-way communication where we are just giving some lecture. You have to work along with the teacher. So I would request all of you to participate actively. So, and before I would let ma'am take the class, just few quick announcements. Again, we are telling you, please make sure that you enroll for the classes. The free classes are only till Sunday, that is the 7th of June. After that, we'll be having the paid classes, and already we have students who have registered. We still have some seats. We have live classes, we have recorded classes. Then after the recorded classes, you'll be getting MCQs, you'll get quizzes. There'll be lot of support and everyday live class. Make sure you don't miss this opportunity. If you use the promo code now 2000, you get it just for 3997. Don't miss this opportunity. We'll also share the link in the description and in the chat window. So now I would let ma'am take the class. We'll be going to the classroom mode. Thank you very much, all of you, and hopefully I'll join you at the end of the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Alok. Wish me good luck.
Yeah, all the best.
Thank you. Yeah. Hello, students. Are we ready? Hello once again, all CS aspirants. I'm Panama. Today we are discussing paper 4, part B. It has two parts, part A and part B. Part A is taught by or discussed by Ramcharan sir, and part B, I will be the one who will be handling it. Now, what do we have in part B? We have presentation and communication skills. Now, why is it important for a CS student to be well versed in communication and presentation skills? When you become company secretaries, you will be interacting a lot with lot many people, the higher ups and your equals and your subordinates and lot many. You need to communicate well so that things are in the right perspective and you are able to carry on with your job well. And what is this presentation? People have a wrong understanding that presentation is a PPT. It need not be a PPT. Anything which is put across properly is called presentation. So in CSEET paper 4 part B, we'll be discussing presentation and communication skills. And as you all know, this is for 30 marks for Viva. Now, why is it important? Because you can either score all 30 or lose all 30. It's in your hands and it's not very difficult to score all 30. Let's find out how we do it. So today's is session 1. In today's session, we'll be discussing just one topic, right? We'll understand the syllabus very well, and then we'll be discussing just one topic. Initially, we'll glance over the syllabus because you need to understand what exactly is there in the syllabus and the relationship between each topic or amongst each topics. There we have listening skills, which I'll be discussing a bit at length, and then also we'll discuss what is the difference between hearing and listening. And then we also will understand what is the difference between monologue and dialogue, which is very important. And then we'll go in detail with monologue today's session. It will have definition, it will have comparison, and it will have explanation and a couple of example or exercise. So why do we have exercise today? Because I believe in doing rather than just listening. Theory doesn't take us much. If I was a swimming instructor, instead of showing you PPT or explaining how to swim and what are the different types of swimming, I would have just put you in a swimming pool so that you will learn swimming. So that we save time and we also do something, and doing is the best method of learning. So today, what are we doing? We'll understand the syllabus, and then we'll know what listening skill is and the difference between listening and hearing. and then the difference between monologue and dialogue, and we'll start focusing only on monologue today. That will have an activity to understand better. Now, to have an overview of the syllabus, this has three parts. The presentation and communication skill has three parts. Now, all of us assume that our communication skill is good. It need not be. Language is just a part of communication. Our communication skill consists of language as one just concept. It has lot many things. It could be your attitude, it could be your tone, it could be your background, or it could be the situation, and lot many things. So to have a good communication skill, apart from language, we also should focus on other aspects. So let us understand what communication skill is, or what communication is. Communication is both an art and a science. Why is it called both art and science? Like I've explained earlier in my other video, any form of art, it could be singing or dance or paint or whatever, could be improved over a period of time with practice. Similarly, communication can also be improved over a period of time with practice. The more you communicate, the better you get it. Now, why is it a science? Like any other scientific concept, it has a structure, it has a format. For example, in any communication, there is a sender, there is a channel, and there's a receiver. The sender should know the receiver very well, and he or she should choose the right channel, and then he or she should take the feedback so that they understand whether the message sent is understood the way it should be understood. Am I going fine, or is it too fast? Please let me know if I'm fast. Now, here we'll take the example of what we're doing now. I'm the sender. So before I start talking, I should understand who the receivers are. Are the receivers professionals or professional students, or are they students of primary class, or are they second PU science students, or what is the age group, etc. Based on these information, I structure my communication. The second is I need to know how can I reach the channel or the medium. Here, I'm talking to CS aspirants. Since I cannot meet them face to face, I cannot physically meet them, we have chosen the platforms of Zoom and YouTube and Ekcel Academy. So when you understand this structure, we can put our communication in the right perspective. Hence, the communication will achieve its objective. Since it can be improved with practice and it has to be understood very well to be effective, communication is called science and art. Now, presentation, as I told earlier, it is not just a PPT. Any form of presenting something is called presentation. It could be just a query, it could be an explanation, it could be a formula being written on the board. Anything which you present is called presentation, and it has to be very clearly understood by the receiver. So, in these sessions, we will understand how to do it effectively so that we learn to communicate well. In the syllabus, we have listening skills, and then we have written communication skills, and then we have oral communication skills. Now, why is listening so very important? I'll explain to you in detail in my next slide. However, listening is important because everything depends on how we listen and how we understand, how we comprehend, and how we respond. So, under listening skill, we have monologue, dialogue, grammar, and vocabulary. Once this is done, we go to written communication, where you'll be given a topic on which you'll have to write. It could be a paragraph, it could be an essay, or it could be a précis writing. So a topic can be as generic as pandemic. So the moment somebody gives the topic pandemic, at the moment you start writing about COVID-19. Or the topic may be write the difference or compare pandemic with epidemic or something like that. So it becomes a comparative kind of a presentation. So a topic could be generic or it could be specific. So one has to know how to approach a topic and write a paragraph. And there's also something called short note writing. I'm sure you've been doing it in your school and PU classes. It will be explained later. Then we have essay writing and essay writing. Then the third one is oral communication skill. This is very important for your Viva bus. Here, the candidates, that is you people, are expected to answer the questions asked by the interviewer or anybody for that matter. So let us learn to ask questions and answer. So all these will be dealt in detail later. Yeah. Now, in today's session, we'll understand what listening skill is. And as I told you, you may feel that I'm repeating these over and again. I'm repeating for the simple reason that whatever you understand, you hear, you listen, and you understand today should be engraved in your mind, that you should never forget. I have a philosophy: whatever I teach or learn, according to me, 50% is for the examination and 50% is for our lives, because we write examination to take up a profession which will help us lead a good life. So it's not enough if we just prepare for the examination. We need to understand things so that we will make it a part of our life. That's the reason I keep on repeating. Please don't get irritated. Now, so we have monologue, dialogue, grammar, and vocabulary. Today, as I told you earlier, we'll concentrate only on monologue. So before we go to monologue, where you have to listen to something, let me tell you what is the difference between hearing and listening. Okay. Can somebody try to answer? I know I cannot hear you. Nevertheless, can somebody try to tell the difference between hearing and listening? No great shakes. It's very simple. But there are people who get confused between hearing and listening. Hearing is not listening. Hearing is a very, very unconscious activity, whereas listening is a very conscious activity. At this point of time, you're supposed to listen to me. I don't know whether you're listening to me, but you're supposed to listen to me. Along with listening to me, you could be hearing other noises, maybe the traffic, or somebody's phone ringing in your house, or the background of the television, or music, or birds hopefully chirping. So what happens is you hear multiple noise, but you're focusing only on what you should be focusing. So presume you have understood the difference between hearing and listening. When you put conscious effort to hear something so that you understand very well, that is called listening. Now, there are different types of listening. I've just listed out five. At the moment, let us ignore all that is in blue. The five different types of listening I've taken here are active or comprehensive listening. Now, if you're really paying attention to my class, that is called active or comprehensive listening, because you want to listen to me and you want to understand what has been told to you all. So you're doing it very actively and you're putting a lot of effort to comprehend. Hence, it becomes active or comprehensive listening. So it could be a lecture, or it could be somebody giving you information for the query you asked. There, you don't want to miss anything, so you put a lot of effort. Then you have passive listening. You're not very keen on knowing everything, but you sort of feel okay. Let me hear. So that becomes passive listening. Selective listening. The typical example for selective listening is any lecture. Definitely, nobody listens to all that the teacher speaks for 1 hour. We know that as teachers, we know we were also students once upon a time, right? So, why do we do this selective listening? We start listening to the teacher in the beginning and towards the end, and in between, you go on a trip. And in between, if the teacher starts talking and telling some anecdotes or a story, you come back and pay attention. So we listen to what we feel is important. Selective listening is about we listening to what we feel is important. But please remember, what we feel is important need not be useful to us. What may be boring to us may be useful to us. Please understand that. So you should stop the selective listening for the simple reason we may make a wrong selection. Then critical listening. Critical listening happens when you want to give your opinion about certain things. So when a person is talking, you will start analyzing it as he's speaking, and then also will start framing your own questions or answers for that. Then again, you have attentive listening or emphatic or reflective listening, which happens usually during dialogue, so that you pay attention, you form your opinion, and then again you counter. It could be during a debate, or it could be during an argument, or it could be sometimes when the elders start giving you a host of advice. You either do critical listening or attentive listening because you want to prove your right. Now, we'll go to monologue and dialogue. Before you go further, we'll understand what a monologue is and compare with dialogue. Now, what's a monologue? Mono is one or single. So any conversation, any talk which happens by one person is referred to as monologue. Maybe what I'm doing now at this point of time is monologue. I'm just talking continuously. It could be a speech, it could be a non-interactive sessions in one of the classes, or it could be addressed by somebody, a keynote speaker, or by the chief guest. So in these situations, the person speaks for long, all by himself without any interruption, without any scope for somebody to ask a question or make a point. So since one person keeps talking, it is called monologue. So monologue is a long talk or a speech by a person without any response or interruption by the listener. What's a dialogue? Dialogue is when it happens between more than one person. It could be two, it could be three, but I usually say means two, but it can happen between more than two people or amongst more than two people. So a dialogue is when any conversation or any communication happens between more than two people, two or more than two people. Between two or more people, there would be interaction and interruption. Sometimes in your class, if, for example, a teacher is teaching you accounting or income tax and stuff like that, you are not very clear about it, there's confusion, you interrupt, you ask questions, and she or he would reply. Or you're traveling somewhere, you do not know the route properly, you stop and ask somebody. I mean, talking about before Google Map, whatever. You stop and ask somebody for a way. He or she gives you the direction. So it could be a dialogue, a talk between two friends, a conversation, or a confabulation. So a monologue is a talk by one person, whereas dialogue is between more or amongst more than two people. Presume you're clear about it. Okay. This is just for you to understand. A monologue could be written or spoken. It need not always be a speech. So during monologue, the person who's listening to the monologue and the person who's giving the monologue both should be highly focused. One must be highly focused while writing or speaking. While writing or speaking a monologue, as it requires a concentrated flow of thought to express what is in one's mind. A kind of focus is required so that you don't deviate from the topic. Some of the famous examples of monologue, I mean, all of you would have heard the famous Mark Antony's speech in Julius Caesar by William Shakespeare. Or it could be any speech by any leaders, or sessions by lecturers, or advice by elders. It goes on and you know how it is. Or it could also be a report by the researcher when he presents his observation or his study. Presume you're clear about what a monologue is. A monologue is talk, a lengthy talk by a person to the audience about a topic where he's either trying to convince or just advise or just inform. The objective could be anything, but it is basically to it is basically one person conveying to many, or maybe one person also. Now, I told you the best way to learn is by doing. Uh, I thought I'll have a small activity where I'll give a monologue. You will have to listen to it. I mean, of course, you already have a clue. I thought I'll give a clue so that it'll be easier for you to, follow since this is the first activity. I'll read out something. Please pay attention. It's left to you to note down what you feel is important, or you may just trust your memory and make a mental note. Shall we? Yeah. Let's start my monologue. You're supposed to listen carefully and answer the questions which are asked towards the end. May I begin? May I? Yeah. When the little frog was thirsty, he drank a little bit of the well water, and when he was hungry, he ate some insects. When he was tired, he lay on the little rock at the bottom of the well and looked up at the sky above him. Sometimes he was passing, sometimes he saw passing clouds. He was very happy and satisfied till he met a kind sparrow who showed him the world outside. The world outside is so big, so wonderful, and beautiful. The little frog finally cried out happily and jumped into the pond. He climbed up on a huge lotus leaf and enjoyed his life there, his new life there. The yellow sparrow came back and asked, "Little frog, how's the outside world? Big? Beautiful?" "Thank you very much. If you had not brought me out to see this world, I would never had known that there are such beautiful things that exist outside my well." The little frog never tried to go back to his old well again. Frog in the well is used to describe an individual who cannot or refuses to see the big picture because of being sheltered and close minded. I was deliberately very slow, and I chose a very simple story without any high sounding vocabulary. And it's a story which most of you would have heard. Even if you're not heard, I think it was very easy to register. Now, with the presumption that you all have heard me well, you have heard the monologue well, uh, I'll ask a couple of questions. Let's see if we can answer. Okay. When the frog was tired, he lay. Yes. Is there anybody who could answer? Yes. I think most of you got it. On a little rock at the bottom of the well. The second question: what did the frog see sometimes? Anybody getting the correct answer? Yeah. Sometimes he saw passing clouds. Till when was he happy? He was very happy and satisfied till he met a kind sparrow. What did the sparrow show? Anybody getting answer? Sorry. The sparrow showed him the, forget this who. The sparrow showed him the world outside. What did the frog cry out happily? The outside world is so big, so wonderful, and beautiful. Before I go to the next question, if you notice these 5 questions, some are very simple. You just have to recollect from your memory, whereas other questions you'll have to quote verbatim. For example, the fifth question. The fifth question, you cannot understand answer. You have to quote verbatim. What is verbatim? As it is. You have to, like what you said, direct speech in your school days. So some questions will require an answer which is verbatim, which you have to quote verbatim, whereas some you can just summarize and answer. Next question. What color was the sparrow? Very simple. Yellow. Was the frog grateful to the sparrow? If you notice, I never use the word grateful anywhere in the monologue, but here you're supposed to understand, comprehend the monologue, the passage, and then give your answer. So some questions are very direct, some expects you to give your own answer based on your comprehension. That's why I told monologue, you should be very active, or we should resort to active or comprehensive listening. This is the gist basically. What sort of people are called frog in the well? So here you need to understand and remember, because the paragraph which I read out, or the monologue which I read out, had this sentence. I know it's very difficult to memorize everything, but it's not so very difficult that you cannot answer. Frog in the well is used to describe an individual who cannot or who refuses to see the big picture because of being sheltered and close minded. See, this is a very simple monologue. It's a story. which probably most of you would have heard when you grew up, as you're growing up. So it should not be very difficult for you to comprehend or pay attention to. But the flip side is, because you're already familiar with the story, some of you may not have paid attention to everything. This is exactly what happens when you communicate. Because you feel the topic which is being spoken or the information that is being given to you is already known by you, you stop listening attentively. You get into passive listening, which we discussed earlier. Remember, we discussed what passive listening is. So you resort to passive listening, so you miss out some of the points because you already have heard this topic. Here you have heard this story. Hence, irrespective of the fact that you are new to the topic or the topic is stale to you, you have to practice active or comprehensive listening so that you don't miss out. Please start visualizing yourselves as the company secretary already. This is how you should be performing. Then it becomes easier for you to pick up these skills. This is what I read. Yeah. Now we'll have one more exercise. Those who have seen my videos earlier would have come across this. Some of you who have not would not have. Let's see how it goes. The ones that seen my video earlier should be able to answer better, but they may get into the mood of saying, okay, I have already heard. Then you'll be making a mistake. The ones who are hearing for the first time should listen very attentively, like the ones who are hearing for the second time. So shall we go about with this? The same activity, same exercise. I'll read out a passage. Kindly pay attention and try to answer the queries. It begins with a question. May I start reading? What is your reason for being? According to the Japanese, everyone has an ikigai, what a French philosopher might call a raison d'etre. Some people have found their ikigai, while others are still looking, though they carry it within them. Our ikigai is hidden deep inside each of us, and finding it requires a patient search. According to those born on Okinawa, the island with the most centenarians in the world, our ikigai is the reason we get up in the morning. Passion, mission, vocation, profession are the four things discussed here. And the author says, passion and mission are what you love. Mission and vocation is what the world needs. And profession and vocation is what you can be paid for. Profession and passion is what you're good at. Now I'm done with my monologue. We'll go ahead with the questions. What is the reason for being called in Japanese? I'm sure everyone has got the answer. Yes, ikigai. We'll go to the next question. What's the nearest word for ikigai in French? Some of you would have heard, some of you would know. Some of you heard me reading, but you couldn't follow the pronunciation. Raison d'etre. Was the island mentioned in this monologue? It's a very direct question because it was mentioned as it is. Okinawa. The third question is, in which country do you find this island? Yeah, very, very simple question. Even if you had not heard, you can go back to the previous questions and then get the answer. There's a trick for every trade. Japan. Yeah, what are the four concepts which ikigai comprises of? How many of you got it right? What are they? Passion, mission, vocation, and profession. Should be profession. Yeah. Dash is what passion and mission gave you. Some of you would have paid attention, some of you would have written down, some of you would have trusted your memory. Nevertheless, let me see how many of you got the answer. Yeah, what you love, probably at the point of time. What is your passion? Company secretary. What is your mission? To become a company secretary. And what is that you love? What does the world need? Yes, that was read out. The world needs mission and occasion. They need you as a company secretary, and that's your mission, so it matches. What can profession and vocation get you? It can get you paid for. All of us work so that we get paid for. So if your vocation and profession match, you'll be paid for. You're good at your, yes, okay, profession and passion. And you're very lucky if your passion becomes your profession. Okay. Now, with the presumption that you understood the syllabus, the content which you should be learning, understanding, comprehending, and have mastery over to answer well in your Viva Voce. And also with the assumption that you have understood the difference between learning and hearing. And also with the assumption that you have understood the difference between monologue and dialogue. And also with the hope that you are able to follow my reading, the monologue, and you could answer most of the questions. Let me conclude today's session. Before concluding, I would ask a couple of questions. What is a monologue? I'm sure you can answer. Yeah, monologue is a long talk by a person without any, yes, interruption or interference. Give an example for monologue. Please try to give an example which I have not mentioned here. Please, again, don't mention the talk by Mark Antony or the speech by Mark Antony or Nelson Mandela speech. Talk about something else. So if you have understood monologue well, it's time to move on to dialogue. I think we can conclude the session unless you have any clarification. Shall we wind up the session for the day? Thank you.